The Order of Assassins, shadows that change the course of history. Yes, it is hard to find a more intriguing page in history than that associated with the Assassin Order. Their history is literally steeped in mysticism and legends, but at the same time it has very real roots that go back centuries. The Order of Assassins was not just some gang of thugs, as sometimes people try to imagine. No, it was a real power, capable of influencing the fate of entire countries and peoples. They operated in the shadows, but their influence was felt everywhere. That's why their name still inspires awe and respect. Their methods were truly terrifying. Covert sabotage, espionage, it was all part of the assassins' arsenal. They were not afraid to risk their lives to achieve their goal, because they believed that paradise awaited them after the end. It made them virtually invincible. The whisper of the wind carried the sounds of battle, the echo of swords and shouts filled the air. Knight Richard Lionheart stood on the castle wall, looking out at the vast sea of lights of the enemy camp. Tonight he felt particularly uneasy, as if the darkness itself breathed menace. "Your Majesty, be careful," the loyal squire whispered, gripping the hilt of his sword. "It is said that assassins can penetrate the castle walls." Richard nodded, remembering the tales of a mysterious sect whose names terrified all who heard of them. They called themselves the Hashashiyah, and their art of destruction was so masterful that it seemed as if they moved in the shadows, invisible to the eye. Suddenly the wind died down, and the silence was broken only by the light rustle of footsteps. Richard turned around, but saw no one. His gaze wandered to the tower door leading down to his chambers. Something was wrong. He moved forward, treading carefully on the stone floor. The door was slightly ajar, and a streak of light shone through it. Richard froze, listening. The footsteps had stopped, and now he heard only his own breathing. Slowly, carefully, he opened the door and stepped inside. The room was empty, but there was a piece of paper on the table. Richard picked it up and read, "Your time is up, King. You can run, but you have nowhere to hide. We'll be right behind you." Richard's heart beat faster. He realized that he was now facing his toughest battle yet, a battle with an unseen enemy. The assassins had come for him, and the night would witness their duel. Many years later, when the Crusades were but a memory, the legends of the assassins lived on. It was said that once, on a dark night, they could change the course of history by eliminating one of the greatest kings. But the truth was known only to those who saw the shadow slip past, leaving behind only a whisper of wind and the smell of fear. Imagine a time when religion and politics are so closely intertwined that they become almost inseparable. And so it was in this atmosphere, at the end of the 11th century, that the Order of Assassins came into being. It all began with a split within the Muslim community in the 8th century. The point is that then a part of Muslims refused to recognize the official line of succession of caliphs. Instead, they chose Ismail, son of the 6th Imam Jafar al-Sadiq, as their leader. Thus a new branch of Islam, Ismailism, was born. Over time, this branch grew and covered more and more territories, from Egypt to Iran and India. But let's return to our heroes, assassins. The true founder of this order, Hassan ibn as-Sabah, was born in about 1050 in the city of Qom, which is located in modern Iran. From his childhood he was characterized by a keen mind and an interest in religion and politics. Having received an excellent education, he quickly rose through the ranks and soon became one of the leaders of the Ismailis. And so, in 1090, something amazing happens. Hassan ibn as-Sabah, by cunning methods, captures the fortress of Alamat, hidden deep in the Elbrus Mountains in northern Iran. This fortress becomes his main headquarters and the place where he begins to create his legendary order of assassins. Here he gathers around him a loyal following, to whom he instills the skills of espionage, sabotage, and the art of destruction. You know, an eagle does not fly in a flock, but acts alone, stealthily and precisely. And so it was with the assassins. They were true masters of stealth and discipline. There was order within their structure, and everyone knew his place. On the lower level were the fedayeen, simple soldiers who were ready to do anything to fulfill orders. These guys were a real fighting machine, always ready to rush into battle without asking any questions. At the middle level were rafiqs, experienced fighters and scouts. They were no longer just following orders, but were developing plans and gathering information themselves. They were real professionals. And at the top of the pyramid stood the dayas, leaders, and mentors. These guys were responsible for everything from planning operations to training newcomers. The dais were the think tank of the order, their decisions determined the fate of each member. Interestingly enough, the assassins never sought open battles. Why go to the trouble when you can act quietly and effectively? They preferred to eliminate key enemy figures by infiltrating their ranks under the guise of merchants, monks, or even servants. True masters of disguise. The founder of the order, Hassan ibn as-Sabah, realized that real success is possible only when people are fully committed to the cause and are willing to sacrifice themselves for it. Therefore, the whole system of education was based on forming in pupils a sense of duty to the order and its leaders. Yes, they had to be ready to do anything for the common cause. By the way, there is a legend that assassins used hashish to instill in their pupils a feeling of unearthly bliss. If you fulfill your leader's task, you'll go straight to heaven. This helped to strengthen their motivation and willingness to sacrifice. In addition, the training of assassins was based on the religious tenets of Ismailism. It was important for the teachers to convey the message to their students that fighting for the faith was a holy cause and they should be willing to go to the end to defend the true faith. Their mission was seen as a sacred purpose. But theory is theory, but practice is another matter entirely. Assassins didn't just sit in classrooms and read textbooks. They actively applied their knowledge in practice, participating in real operations. They started with small tasks, and then gradually moved on to more complex and dangerous tasks. All methods of training were aimed at creating true professionals with all the necessary qualities: physical fitness, psychological stability, deep understanding of culture and strategy. Thanks to this approach, assassins became some of the most effective and intimidating warriors of their time. So, picture this: the year 1192, the Holy Land is boiling with conflicts between Christians and Muslims. At the center of it all is Conrad of Montferrat, King of Jerusalem, an important political figure and participant in the Third Crusade. His role in the region makes him a prime target for assassins. This event is a prime example of how the assassins used their skills and tactics to achieve political goals. The plan for the operation was well thought out. The assassins knew that Conrad regularly visited certain places in Acre and decided to use this knowledge to their advantage. On the appointed day, two assassins disguised as Franciscan monks waited for their moment. One of them pretended to be wounded and asked for Conrad's help when he came out of the church. The king, unsuspecting, came closer. And the second assassin stabbed him lightning fast with a dagger. This act caused quite a shock among the Christian leaders. Everyone began to look for someone to blame, and many pointed the finger at Saladin, the Sultan of Egypt and Syria. True, no evidence of his involvement was found. But the main thing is that the goal was achieved, Conrad was destroyed, and the political situation in the region changed dramatically. This event clearly shows how effective the assassins could be in achieving their goals. Their ability to conduct covert operations and eliminate key figures influenced the course of history. The elimination of Conrad of Montferrat shifted the balance of power in the Holy Land, creating a power vacuum that other players rushed to fill. So, yes, the assassins were true masters of their craft. Their ability to infiltrate the most guarded places and eliminate important individuals made them one of the most dangerous and respected factions of the time. Hassan ibn as-Sabah was not just the head of the order, but a true guru, spiritual leader, and mentor. He created a unique system of training and education based on complete submission and devotion. Legends say that he used various methods, including hypnosis and drugs, to instill absolute loyalty in his students. One of the most famous methods is the so-called Paradise Valley. The chosen disciples were taken to this place, where they were exposed to hashish, hence the name assassins, from the Arabic word hashishiyya, which means hashish users. There they would spend a few days in an artificially created paradise full of pleasures and delights. When they returned to the real world, they were told that the only way to get back to this paradise was through martyrdom for their teacher's cause. These disciples literally lived in two worlds, the real world and the illusory world. In the former, they performed dangerous tasks at the risk of their lives, while in the latter, they enjoyed the pleasures of paradise that seemed real to them. This contrast helped to strengthen their belief that eternal bliss awaited them after their demise. Hassan ibn as-Sabah knew how to play on human weaknesses and desires. He knew that the promise of paradise is a powerful incentive for those who are ready to risk everything for the sake of their faith. And his disciples did indeed go to any lengths, knowing that their reward awaited them in the other world. Thus, Hassan ibn as-Sabah created not just a fighting group, but a real sect, where each member was ready to give his life for the common cause. His methods of education and training made the assassins some of the most fearsome and effective warriors of their time. When the Crusades began at the end of the 11th century, the Islamic world faced a serious challenge. The Crusaders captured Jerusalem and established several Christian states in the Levant. However, the assassins were in no hurry to immediately enter into open conflict. At first they preferred to remain in the shadows, carefully observing what was happening. The first major clash between the assassins and the Crusaders took place in the early 12th century, when the order decided to attack the castle of Croix de Chevalier, which belonged to the Knights Hospitallers. It would seem a good moment to attack, but something went wrong. The attack was unsuccessful and the assassins had to retreat, losing many of their fighters. Despite this setback, relations between the assassins and the Crusaders continued to be extremely tense. Both sides made extensive use of stealthy sabotage tactics in an attempt to inflict maximum damage on each other. One of the most famous episodes was the elimination of Count Raymond II of Tripolitania in 1152. This incident showed how dangerous and effective the assassins could be in their actions. Count Raymond was an important figure among the Crusaders, and his elimination seriously affected the balance of power in the region. This case also demonstrated that the assassins were not afraid to attack dignitaries if it suited their purposes. They constantly kept their opponents in suspense, forcing them to be wary. Although the assassins did not always engage in open battles, their influence on the course of events was significant. They were adept at using their skills and tactics to change the political climate in their favor. Wow, what a personality! The Elder of the Mountain was not just a leader, but a true symbol of power and mystery. This nickname was given to Hassan ibn as-Sabah himself, who settled in the impregnable fortress of Alamat and rarely left it. His influence on his followers was so strong that many considered him almost a deity. Legends about the Elder of the Mountain quickly spread throughout the Middle East and even reached Europe. Chroniclers of that time told about him as a mysterious and omnipotent ruler, who as if to control the minds of people. There were even rumors that he was able to predict the future and read minds. Imagine, a man living in a remote fortress, ruling an entire order that terrified everyone around him. His authority was so great that no one dared to challenge his words. People believed that he possessed supernatural powers, and this only increased his power. The more rumors and myths that surrounded his figure, the stronger his influence became. In the eyes of his followers, he became more than just a man, and this gave his orders even more weight. After Hassan ibn as-Sabah in 1124, the reins of the order passed to his heirs. The first of them was his son Muhammad ibn Buzarit, who tried to continue his father's work. However, over time, the influence of the assassins began to fade slowly. Various internal conflicts and the growing external threat began to undermine their position, and the order gradually lost its former power. The real end came in the 13th century, when the Mongol invasion of the Middle East struck. The Mongols, known for their cruelty and ruthlessness, seized the fortress of Alamat and practically wiped out most of the assassins. Those who were lucky enough to survive scattered to different corners of the world, continuing their clandestine activities far from their homeland. Of course, after such upheavals, the order could not regain its former glory and influence. His remnants dissolved in history, leaving behind only legends and memories. But even centuries later, the memory of the assassins lives on, inspiring writers, artists and filmmakers to create new works based on their dark and mysterious exploits. The history of the assassin order truly leaves a deep trace in the memory of mankind. It reminds us that even the smallest group of people can change the course of history if they have faith, courage, and iron will.